The rain poured mercilessly, turning the streets into glistening rivers under the pale glow of streetlights. Ethan Hayes sprinted down the sidewalk, his worn boots splashing through puddles. He wasn't running to escape the rain. He was running toward the chaos ahead. A car had spun out of control on the slick road, crashing violently into a tree at the edge of a ravine. The sound of crunching metal still echoed in his ears as he reached the scene. The vehicle teetered dangerously, its front wheels barely gripping the muddy edge. Inside, a woman sat frozen, her face pale and her hands clutching the steering wheel. Ethan shouted, "Hey, don't move. I'll get you out." He grabbed a tire iron from the back of the car and smashed the window. Rain mixed with gasoline as it pooled inside the car, the air thick with danger. "Take my hand," he urged, his voice cutting through the roar of the storm. The woman hesitated, tears streaming down her face, but finally she reached out. With a burst of strength, Ethan pulled her free just as the car gave way, tumbling into the ravine below. They collapsed together on the wet ground, gasping for breath. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "You saved my life." Ethan shook his head. "I just did what anyone would have done." The woman, who later introduced herself as Lena Cross, would soon upend Ethan's life in ways he couldn't imagine. The next morning, as Ethan returned to the garage where he worked, he could barely shake the night's events. His co-workers teased him for his soaked clothes and tired eyes, but he shrugged it off. "Just another night," he muttered. Yet, as he turned to his workbench, a sleek black car pulled up outside. Lena stepped out, her heels clicking against the pavement as she approached. The noise in the garage died down instantly. Her presence commanded attention. "Ethan Hayes," she said, her voice firm but warm. He wiped his hands on a rag, feeling out of place. "That's me. Something wrong with your car?" "No," she replied, holding out a business card. "But I owe you. If you ever need anything, call me." Ethan hesitated, pocketing the card as she left. He didn't think much of it. What could someone like her possibly want from someone like him? Days later, he found out. 3 days later, Ethan stood at the garage, wiping his hands after a long day of work, when a courier handed him a sleek envelope embossed with a gold emblem. He opened it to find an invitation, his name written in bold, elegant script. It was an invitation to meet Lena at her office in the heart of the city. Ethan wasn't sure what to think. This kind of thing didn't happen to people like him. He spent the rest of the day debating whether to go, but finally decided there was no harm in hearing her out. The next morning, he stood outside a towering skyscraper that gleamed in the sunlight. Dressed in his best, though still slightly scruffy, clothes, he entered the building. The lobby was intimidating, with polished marble floors and suits bustling in every direction. A receptionist guided him to the top floor, where Lena's office overlooked the sprawling city skyline. She greeted him warmly, her presence somehow both commanding and approachable. "Thank you for coming, Ethan," she said, gesturing for him to sit. He hesitated, taking in the luxurious office before settling into a chair. "Not sure why I'm here, but sure." She smiled. "I owe you a lot more than a thank you for what you did that night. But this isn't just about gratitude. I saw something in you, something rare. You didn't hesitate to risk your life for a stranger. That kind of character is invaluable, especially in a world like this." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "I'm just a mechanic, Ms. Cross." "Call me Lena," she corrected. "And you're not just anything. I want to offer you an opportunity, a job, working directly with me. I think you're capable of far more than you realize." Her words caught him off guard. "A job? Doing what exactly?" "Start as my assistant," Lena explained. "Learn the ropes, get a feel for this world. You have potential, Ethan, and I want to help you unlock it." The idea seemed absurd. Ethan had spent his life under the hoods of cars, not navigating the corporate jungle. Yet, something in her tone, earnest and confident, made him consider it. After a long pause, he nodded. "All right, I'll give it a shot." Ethan's first week at Cross Enterprises was a whirlwind. He'd traded grease-streaked overalls for stiff suits, and the transition was anything but smooth. The towering office walls seemed to mock him as he stumbled through his duties. Lena was patient, guiding him through meetings, schedules, and decisions that felt light years beyond his expertise. But not everyone welcomed him. Whispers followed him through the halls, murmurs of favoritism and doubt. Just another charity case, one senior executive sneered as Ethan passed by. The tension boiled over during a meeting where Ethan presented a project idea. Mark Talbot, a high-ranking manager known for his sharp tongue, interrupted with a laugh. "This is amateur hour. Why are we wasting time on this?" Ethan froze, his confidence crumbling under the weight of the criticism. But as his eyes met Lena's across the table, her calm nod bolstered him. Taking a deep breath, he pushed forward, speaking with the passion and practicality he'd honed as a mechanic. When he finished, the room was silent. Then slowly, heads began to nod. Even Lena smiled, her pride evident. For the first time, Ethan felt like he belonged, not because of where he came from, but because of what he brought to the table. As weeks turned into months, Ethan adapted. His ideas saved the company money, and even his harshest critics couldn't deny his growing value. Lena remained his steadfast mentor, their bond deepening with late-night brainstorming sessions and candid conversations. Yet, success brought complications. Rumors swirled about their relationship, whispers that Lena's support went beyond professional. Ethan tried to ignore the gossip, but it gnawed at him. He didn't want his achievements overshadowed by baseless assumptions. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he found himself alone with Lena in her office. "Why are you doing this for me?" he asked, his voice low. She looked at him, her gaze steady. "Because you deserve it. And because you remind me of what integrity looks like, something this world desperately needs." Her words reassured him, but the challenges were far from over. The day everything nearly unraveled started like any other. Ethan arrived to find the office buzzing with tension. Fake documents had surfaced, implicating him in financial misconduct. An anonymous tip had triggered an investigation, and the accusations hit him like a gut punch. In a sterile conference room, he faced a panel of stern executives. "These are serious allegations, Mr. Hayes," one of them said gravely. Ethan's voice trembled. "I didn't do this. I swear." Lena stepped in, her tone firm. "I trust Ethan completely. We'll get to the bottom of this." True to her word, she and her assistant worked tirelessly. Within days, the trail led back to Mark Talbot, whose bitterness had driven him to sabotage Ethan. The truth came to light, clearing Ethan's name, but the ordeal left scars. "I can't keep fighting these battles," Ethan admitted to Lena afterward. "You don't have to prove anything to them," she said gently. "Just to yourself." Her words stayed with him. Ethan's journey wasn't just about success. It was about resilience, integrity, and finding his place in a world that seemed out of reach. And as he stood in Lena's office one evening, looking out over the city, he realized something. The man who had pulled her from the wreckage that stormy night was still in him. But now, he was stronger, more determined, and ready for whatever came next. Ethan's transformation was undeniable. The once timid mechanic who walked into Cross Enterprises now stood with confidence, shoulders back, eyes steady. He had proven himself time and again, silencing doubters with results that spoke louder than words. But success, as he had learned, was a double-edged sword. Though Mark Talbot had been dealt with, the corporate world was a constant battlefield, and Ethan still faced resistance from those who saw him as an outsider. Each challenge only fueled his determination, but it also weighed on him. His nights grew longer, and the demands of his new life left little time for anything else. One evening, Lena invited him to a charity gala hosted by Cross Enterprises. It was a dazzling event with crystal chandeliers, flowing gowns, and tuxedos as far as the eye could see. Ethan, dressed in a tailored suit Lena had insisted he wear, felt out of place among the city's elite. He wasn't here to fit in, though. He was here to represent the company. As the night wore on, Ethan noticed Lena moving through the crowd with her usual grace, effortlessly commanding attention. She made her way to him, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "Enjoying yourself?" she asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. "I feel like a fish out of water," he admitted, taking the glass. "But I'm surviving." Lena chuckled. You're doing more than surviving, Ethan. Look around. People are starting to notice you, not just as my assistant, but as someone who belongs. Her words were encouraging, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that not everyone was on his side. As he scanned the room, he caught sight of a group of executives huddled together, their glances toward him anything but subtle. Among them was a man he didn't recognize, tall, with sharp features and an air of authority. "Who's that?" Ethan asked, nodding toward the man. Lena followed his gaze, her expression tightening. "That's Victor Crane. He's been eyeing a merger with Cross Enterprises for years. He's powerful, ruthless, and not someone to be underestimated." Ethan sensed there was more to the story, but before he could press further, Victor approached. "Lena," he said smoothly, extending a hand. "Always a pleasure." "Victor," Lena replied, her tone polite but cool. Victor's eyes shifted to Ethan. "And you must be the famous Ethan Hayes. I've heard quite a bit about you." Ethan extended a hand, meeting Victor's grip firmly. "Good things, I hope?" Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Let's just say intriguing things." With that, he excused himself, leaving Ethan with a lingering sense of unease. The encounter with Victor marked the beginning of a new chapter in Ethan's journey. Weeks later, whispers of an impending hostile takeover filled the office. Victor Crane was making moves, and Lena was in his crosshairs. Cross Enterprises had weathered storms before, but this was different. Victor's influence was vast, and his tactics were underhanded. Ethan found himself pulled deeper into the fray. Lena trusted him with critical tasks, from gathering data to attending high-stakes meetings. Each day was a test of his resolve, his ability to navigate a world where alliances shifted like sand. But it wasn't just the corporate chess game that weighed on him. It was the toll it was taking on Lena. One late night, as they worked in her office, Ethan noticed the exhaustion etched into her face. "You've been carrying this company on your shoulders for too long," he said. Lena sighed, leaning back in her chair. "It's my responsibility. My family built this from the ground up." "You don't have to do it alone," Ethan said. "You've got people who believe in you." She gave him a small smile. "Including you?" "Especially me," he replied without hesitation. Their conversation was interrupted by Lena's assistant, who rushed in with urgent news. "Victor Crane just leaked confidential information about our upcoming project. It's all over the news." Lena's expression darkened. "That's a direct attack." Ethan clenched his fists. "How do we fight back?" "We outsmart him," Lena said, determination replacing her fatigue. "And we make sure he knows we're not going down without a fight." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of strategy and counter-strategy. Ethan found himself stepping into roles he never imagined, negotiating with stakeholders, analyzing data, and even leading a team to secure key partnerships. Lena's mentorship was invaluable, but she also gave him room to prove himself. The turning point came during a crucial board meeting. Victor Crane had managed to sway several members to his side, and the atmosphere was tense. Ethan sat beside Lena, his heart pounding as the debate grew heated. When it was his turn to speak, Ethan stood, drawing on every ounce of courage he had. "I know I'm not what you'd expect in this room," he began. "I didn't come from money or power, and I don't have years of corporate experience. But what I do have is a perspective you can't buy, a perspective grounded in hard work and problem solving." He outlined a plan, using insights from his time as a mechanic to propose innovative solutions that would not only save the company money, but also position it for long-term success. By the time he finished, the room was silent. One by one, the board members nodded their agreement. Even Victor couldn't hide his frustration as he realized the tide had turned. Lena smiled proudly. "Well said, Ethan." With the takeover thwarted and Cross Enterprises stronger than ever, Ethan found himself at a crossroads. Lena offered him a permanent leadership position, a chance to continue climbing the corporate ladder. But as he stood in her office, looking out at the city, he felt a tug towards something else. "I've learned so much here," he told Lena, "but I think it's time I take what I've gained and build something of my own." Lena nodded, her respect evident. "Whatever you do, Ethan, I know you'll succeed." Ethan left Cross Enterprises with a sense of purpose, ready to forge his own path. His journey had been anything but easy, but it had shaped him into someone capable of facing